So then you're gonna zoom in as much as possible, and you might, if you're gonna use your smartphone, there's some cheap things you could get so that you don't have to hold it.
And the other is Haywood, an architect. Both of them designed California African Americans.
You would want like a file that had all these 3 documents together, so you could say, look, on page 1 we see da-da-da-da from da-da-da-da, this image went for auction and this as well. Okay. The last time I was here, someone had a cookbook, like an old book of recipes, and it was falling apart. But let's say you want to use the recipes and preserve the book. That's why you digitize, so that you can, other people can have access to it. You can then share it. You can send it, email it to your whole family, and be like, look, mom's old recipes, but still preserve the actual physical, embodiment of the thing, so that it doesn't fall apart. And also, just to share, another reason to digitize is just to share your information with a wider audience. So like, let's say you do, you want to do something on murals in West Adams, but you want other people all over the world to be able to read about those murals. That's one reason to digitize, because you can put your once you digitize, you can put your content online. So you take a picture, the lens captures the image, and there's like all this technology, this image sensor that like processes the colors, and that's still all considered analog. And it's not until this point where in a camera you have this thing called an analog digital converter that converts the light imagery into like zeros, a set of zeros and ones, and then that's when it becomes digital. And so I just wanted to give some examples of like digital archives. So like the Los Angeles Public Library has this great online digital photo collection. It's all keywords based. I used it a lot for my research. I was trying to do research. Part of my research project is looking at like queer people of color's responses to policing in the 50s, and so through the LA Public Library digital photo collection, I was able to find, photos from news stories and all these different sources that they've archived online, and it's searchable. So that's an example of a public archive. This is another example of a really cool online digital archive. It's called the Mural Locator, and what's really cool about this is it's just like, it's a platform so that users all over can all over the world can say take pictures of a mural in their neighborhood and upload it on this website, and then it maps it and you can look at it, and it's users are allowed to put information. These are all examples of, thinking about the content that you have, the form that it can take online as like a shareable archive. This is an online archive where they interview people in the community and ask them how they solve conflicts in their neighborhood without calling the police. And so, when they were doing this work, they thought, well, this is a great resource because it can help other people, figure out how to deal with problems in their community without getting the police involved. So they, uploaded all the files online and created this online story archive. So this is an example of an audio archive. This was a project I worked on with the Youth Justice Coalition, where they were really interested in understanding the connection between police shootings and gang injunction zones. And so for this project, we collected all this data of where police shootings had happened, and then looked up the latitude and longitude and put it in this mapping program. And then the city provides what's outlined in red are the boundaries of the injunctions. And so what we were able to learn from doing this project is that even though injunction zones are supposed to be more safe, safer, especially some of these ones in the bottom that have a high density of police shootings, that over the years, while gang injunctions maybe have reduced some kind of property crimes, that they don't really eliminate violent crime and premature death. Four steps are image or data capturing. So actually, if you have images family photos, scanning them or taking a picture of them with your iPhone. Data storage, which is so you're taking all these pictures on your iPhone, how many pictures, like, how many pictures do you have to take, because your iPhone is only going to hold this X number of pictures. So just making sure that you have the right storage capacity for the needs of your project. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then the third is cataloging and processing. So for example, let's say you have a bunch of old files that are all printed out, but you want to digitize them. But not only do you want to digitize them, you want them to be searchable. So something like you want the text to turn into computer text. You might take the image, so that's image capture, you store it on the computer, and then you get to processing. Maybe you have to do some color correction stuff, change the contrast so that a software can convert the typewritten text into computer text. So, and then also cataloging, so that's thinking about how are you going to organize this information. So you've captured your images or whatever your information is, you have it somewhere, because even though it's digital, it's zeros and ones, it does like take up some kind of physical space on these computer chips. So you like need a hard drive or a storage device, like there is a physical aspect to it. So you've captured your image, it's somewhere, but now you need to organize it. So you have, like, let's say you have all your family photos, maybe you want to organize it by year or like by family, use it to make a family tree, but you have to think about what are the goals of your project and what kind of organization does it require. And I think thinking about that before you start is great. Talking to someone who didn't think about that before they started a massive project and in the middle had to kind of like organize all their materials. It's much better to actually think about it beforehand, so that every time you sit down to work on your archive, you're repeating the same steps over and over. I think repeatability is really key to like make sure all your information stays together, you don't lose stuff, you don't have to end up doing work that you already did, which I've had to do a few times, just learning curve situation. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about these 4 steps. So data capturing, what kind of information are you trying to digitize will determine what kind of tools that you need. And so for text, either you are doing manual transcription or you have this optical character recognition software. Which I'm going to talk a little bit later about Google Drive. Google is controversial. One thing that's cool about Google Drive is you can tell Google Drive that any image you upload to your Google Drive that has text, it will automatically recognize, like it has a built-in OCR feature where it will automatically recognize the typewritten text and convert it into searchable computer text. So that's a little tip for OCR. You don't have to go look online and find a special software. If you're willing to use Google, it will do that. Images. So if you're going to be taking a lot of pictures, if your archive consists primarily of images, you're going to need some kind of scanner or a camera. Or if your archive is physical objects, but the way you want to present it online is through images, like maybe you have all these very physical items, but the way you would share them with people is through photos, then some kind of scanner or camera. What I found is, especially if you want to be able to digitize text-based stuff, that you need an image capturing device that has at least a resolution of 5 megapixels or higher. And most things now that are made are like most commercial products that are available are 5 or higher, and some aren't. So just that's something to look for, especially these tablets. Like a lot of people I see in the archive like to use iPads, and some of them have a lot of the tablets have a camera that faces this way and one that faces that way. And so when you buy it, you have to look on the box to see usually both those cameras have a different resolution. So you should check that out and make sure. I once bought a product that the camera facing outward only had a 2.5 megapixel resolution. Wow. And so every picture I took, like when I zoomed in to try to read the text, it was like all blurry because the resolution wasn't high enough. And so then the next thing is data storage. Like, where are you going to keep all, especially if you're taking a lot of images, those files get really big. Maybe you don't want to have them all on your personal computer, or you don't have a computer, you're like working at the library, whatever your situation is, you're gonna have to have somewhere to put all this information, especially if, you know, it's a long-term project and you're gonna be digitizing a lot of things. One of the easiest things you could do is get a just an external hard drive. This is my external hard drive. It has a terabyte. When you have your phone, for example, most iPhones have like 8 to 16 gigabytes of storage, which is 1 gigabyte is 1 billion bytes. And so, you know, depending on the quality of your images, you could take anywhere from like maybe 500 to 1,000 photos can fit on your phone. But what happens when, you know, when you reach your capacity? So just making sure you have a place to store things, or if you are doing, you know, digitizing at a library or a public place where the equipment you're using isn't your own, then you definitely need to have some external storage. Thumb drives are really great. They have a lot of storage capacity, but they're really tiny, so they don't take up a lot of space. And then another option for storage is what's called cloud storage, which is just storing something online, and then that gets into, you know, for some people, issues of copyright and ownership and, you know, who owns the content that you store online. I prefer to store a lot of stuff on my hard drive and not online. I do use Google Drive for some things. In some ways it has been useful, and if they say their official policy is that you own your content, but they're a corporation, their rules can change at any time. Cataloging isn't my strong suit. Like, I kind of do it on my own, where I have this like hierarchy of folders in my computer. Like, I don't use a software for cataloging. So like, let's say you're doing a family history and you scan in a photo, but you want to catalog it and say, well, this is a photo of me and my mom. It was taken in 19 It was in Georgia, because later on you want to be able to create a database to say, these are all of our family photos from Georgia, or these are all of our family photos from 1990, whatever, or these are just all of the photos with me and my mom. So cataloging allows you as the archivist to kind of decide, you know, what is important about your collection, and like, you know, how do you want to kind of like organize it for yourself, and then for potentially the people who will be like encountering and using it. And then the last thing is sharing and publishing. So like what you were saying around, if you have issues with copyright and online, then maybe like your thing would stop right here. So you have it digitized, you have it cataloged, and then the way it works is, well, you have an archive and people come to your archive and they can go on the computer and look at all the stuff that's been digitized in person, but it's not online. So then this would be like your ending point. You would not necessarily be trying to publish it online. You know, there's this idea that digitization just equals online and leads to online, and that's not the case. Like, you know, you can digitize documents so that the actual documents can be preserved and people can read them, and maybe the way people read them is they come to your center or to your house or wherever your archive is and they look at it, or, you know, they write to you and you send them a little USB drive. Like, it doesn't have to be online. Digitization doesn't equal online publishing. I think one of the things that's cool with digital archives that are online is, in some ways, the process of sharing your archive can also be the process of continuing to build it by creating, you know, kind of like user interface to be like, oh, like the murals project, anyone in their neighborhood can take a picture of a mural in their neighborhood, upload it on this website, and say, like, this is a mural in my neighborhood in West Philadelphia, born and raised, blah, 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 blah. But I just did want to highlight several free online publishing platforms that I think are pretty cool, which there's this one, sorry, It's called Collective Access. Yeah, sorry. And it's also, all of this information is in the packet. These are just pictorial representations. And then there's another one called Scalar, and Scalar was developed at USC. And what's cool about Scalar is that the USC often has free workshops on how to use Scalar. It's free to use, it's open source. So it's an option, and it's something that you can potentially get trained how to use for free.